Right, guys, okay, so this month on our playlist for Japanese weapons, I'm going to do something you may never have seen before. Unless, of course, you follow Sengoku Studies, who's already put this video up, but I think it's well worth a repeat because I have no idea about this. We translated it in one of our Book of Samurai things, this one's here, the red ones. In one of the editions of that, we translated all in the scrolls we are doing. I can't quite remember. And I've never really heard anyone talk about it before. And it's the idea that you've got your bow, your Japanese bow, and you're about to shoot like that. And then there's a spear tip at the end of your bow. I couldn't find one. I've not seen one. Now, I can't remember exactly what we translated it as or what the name come up as, but Sengoku Studies Scott has got Hazuyari. And this is the idea of this. Imagine it, you're shooting away like that and you're having a go, and then somebody's coming at you, and then you've got to literally turn your bow and start stabbing people. Now, I know Sengoku Studies was discussing how much this flexes and things like that, but I still think it'd be more than enough to pierce human flesh. It most likely isn't there to pierce armour, because it probably wouldn't, and armour is, it's not impossible to pierce Japanese armour. Everybody gets this sort of wrong. It's like you think of armour, you can't pierce it. Well, the Japanese armour is just, you can push through it. It's like chainmail, you can push through it. And not only, and then they started making full sheet metal armour, didn't they, later on. So, but you've got to imagine, you're on the battlefield, most likely. Well, I don't know actually, would this be a Ashigaru type thing or a samurai type thing? I'm not quite sure. We'd have to look into this. But you run out of arrows, you've got to turn your bow, and you've got to start stabbing people, for that bit of distance, and then you're pulling out your short sword, or the great sword. Whenever you watch those, the online where people are fighting, modern fighting, where they're trying to recreate samurai fighting, they always tend to go spear, wakizashi. They tend to never go spear, tachi, wakizashi. It's always like spear, we've passed the spear, quick grab a knife and stab each other. The sword never really seems to get a look in. Now, there is something else to do with spears called, I'll just check the name, Fukuro Yari. And this is where another yari, a spear, has a removable tip, and if you break your spear handle, or you're fighting and the spear handle breaks, you can literally put a new handle on, like a broom, just like your squire, come here. They're not squires, but you do get side assistance. You're like, new spear shaft. So that brings to the question of, where are the new spear shafts? Is it in combat? Is it like afterwards you're like, oh no? But it's weird, because it's one of those that asks more questions than it answers. So you're in combat and you're fighting, and your spear handle is broken through pressure and the sides pushing against each other and different, melee. And then you're like, okay, I need a new spear handle. Where do you get the spear handle from? It can't be in the middle of combat, maybe, because you're like, okay, I can't really get one, go and get me one, Bob, while, thingy. But then it's like, do you pick up the other spear and fight with that, the spear head, and fight with that? Or do you then go around the battlefield picking up these spearheads and go back? Or you have your spare at home, then why don't you just have a full spear spare, back in camp? It's a little bit of one of those questions, but we do find them in the historical record. It's very similar to this picture that should be on the screen now. It's just literally, you click it in, you put it on, and you might peg it and things like that, and you go off and fight. And they're for quick changes in either battle, or, as we say, moving from skirmish to skirmish, so you don't have to go and get all the glues and the lacquers. And because spear handles, not all of them, but there are spear handles, well, maybe all of them, I don't actually know, to be honest. We imagine spear handles, or hafts, as we should say, to be solid, but a lot of the time they're actually a single inside, maybe bamboo, with then layers of wood carved around and lacquered and then polished, and then you got mother of pearl or something like that, or you get more decorative, or if not, it's lacquer, because they've got to keep them. You've got to remember, these are not things for show. It really annoys me, you put it on show. These are things to be taken to war. So depending on your status, depends on how well you have mother of pearl, or you just have lacquer and rope. But the idea is, you might be in combat for months in wet, so a lot of these things will start splitting apart. So that's why you see a lot of things wrapped. It's called worming and parceling in naval terms. And you get a worm, is it a parceling mallet or a worming mallet? Anyway, you pass it round and you worm it all the way up. In the Western tradition, they do it in Japan the same, because it will stay. That's why on spears they have little metal bands. One of them is to stop a sword coming in, and you try and catch the sword from sliding down. But the other ones are actually to stop it splitting, because a lot of them are lacquered in multiple layers. So you know, once it starts getting wet from underneath. That's why spears have a metal tip. So if you just have a wooden tip at the, you know, like at the butt, sorry, a metal butt, if you're putting it in water all the time, or it's going in water, or you see, it's going to soak up and the glues will break open. And what you don't want that. So they have little bands down like to stop the breaking open. Now, you'll have to excuse me, guys. The reason I'm behind is this week we're putting roofs on. We're putting the roofs on, and or at least the felt. So I have been up and down ladders on felt. My body is aching. I'll probably do a video on ninja climbing because of it. But so I can't really get you like take this picture from there and all that. So I do apologise for that. I'm just trying to get you a video out so you got something to watch. So thank you very much to Scott. Make sure you go to Scott's video and see his video. And this will be in the playlist, which is Japanese weapons, which we'll be going through at the minute. Me and Scott are on it. Hopefully, Nick from Sengoku Studies and Stephen Nojiri. And if you want to join us. If you want to help me, guys, get yourself a copy of Book of Bushido. And some good news, guys. Book of Bushido will be on Audible at some point in the next few months. So, which is exciting news.